Welcome everybody to this special Prize Picks on 5 edition of a preview for Errol Spence Jr. versus Terence Crawford. The big fight tonight. It's going to be on pay-per-view. It's going to be $80-something. So,
84.99. They
yeah.
made sure to put that 99 in there. So
Yeah, so make sure you're at a fight party so you're not paying for that yourself. We're gonna explain just about 10-15 minutes how to potentially bet on this fight, what to look for if you're going to play the fight on PrizePicks. Make sure that when you sign up for PrizePicks, you use the promo code 5FIVE, spell that out, get that initial deposit matched up to $100, I believe now. So
yeah, it's $100 and it's a one-time rollover. So if you deposit $100 and it's a one-time rollover, it's pretty simple. If you bet it through one time, you get it back. So essentially, they're giving you a free $100. So I suggest you take it.
Yes, and as for people who may not know who's talking between the two of us, I'm Brian Fonseca. I'm hosting this, and that is Alfredo Arteaga. If you're very familiar with the network, and I'm sure you are if you're watching this, 3 yards per carry, Miami Dolphins, OnlyFins, Discord, just doing everything on the Dolphins side. Dolphins training.
Yeah, if you have a dollar, I'm trying to get it. That's what we try to do on this side of the network. Yeah.
Same here. And if you're familiar with me at all, you're probably tired of me talking about this fight because you've probably seen me on about 4 or 5 other platforms talking about it. But nevertheless, haven't done it on PrizePicks yet, and we're going to do that right now. Errol Spence Jr., Terence Crawford, welterweight, undisputed title. About 5 years in the making, and we have a few plays, and I will say a few plays on PrizePicks right now. There'll probably be more by the time we get started here. Right here, we're looking at punches landed, and right now PrizePicks has this listed at 142.5 each, which I find very interesting because, one, this is a 50-50 fight, although Terence Crawford has moved into being a slight favorite after it opened as a 50-50 fight. But Alf, how do you sort of look at this prop, and is this one that you'd be willing to play on this fight either way with, Spence going over, Crawford going over, and, how do you sort of see this playing itself out?
Yeah, this prop is basically, do you think there's going to be a stoppage or we're going to go 12 rounds tonight? If you think we're going 12 rounds tonight, you're taking the over on both of these guys, and I'll tell you why. Errol Spence averages landing 21.3 punches per round. Crawford 15.8, but that's not what's important. What's important is the amount of punches that they throw, and Spence throws 70.9 per round, while Crawford throws 45.5. And I think that the Spence Porter fight is the model for what we could see in this fight, and those guys combined for 1,500 punches in that fight. So if you think it's going over, you're probably looking at 12-round decision. If you're thinking about going under on these props, you got one guy or the other getting a stoppage. I don't know if you're asking me for my opinion right now.
Yes.
But okay, it's pretty simple. You think it's going over? You think it's going over? It's gonna go to the distance. Nobody's gonna land over 142 punches and get a stoppage. If somebody's landing 142 punches, it's going to be in 12 rounds. I think it's over on both guys. I think there's going to be some fireworks. There's going to be some iffy moments. You might think a guy might go out in the 8th or 9th, but I think we're going to see 12 rounds tonight.
I am thinking something similar, and I was looking through Terence Crawford's last few fights, but then quickly remembered that he's been knocking everybody out since he moved up to welterweight. So there's not a lot of overs here. There is one. You got to go back to Jose Benavidez, which was a few years ago. He had 186 punches landed. And Jeff Horn, he had 155 punches landed. But my pick for this fight, for people who don't know, Terence Crawford by decision, which, you get pretty good value at that on the sports books. But here, you're looking at just sort of punches landed by your theory, if this is going to go over. And Errol Spence is not somebody who's going to be hard to find. Like, he's going to be in Terence Crawford's face the entire night. If Errol Spence is going to drag this out to 12 rounds, and I don't think there's going to be a knockout in this fight. I don't. I've been on record saying that. I just don't think, even with Terence Crawford's knockout streak, even with Errol Spence Jr.'s just sort of dissection and his power and his effectiveness and his strength, I just don't see a knockout in this fight because I think both of these guys are that good. They're both high level in that way. So I would lean over as well, perhaps even on both sides, because Errol Spence is going to keep up the activity. And while Terence Crawford is going to want to box from a distance, there's only but so much he'll be able to do that against Errol Spence if all things go as expected. Terence Crawford also, against David Avanesi in his last fight, he landed 80 punches, but he also knocked him out in the 6th round. It's very early. And, I'm not going to say, hey, you double that, he'll go over, 160, whatever, because it doesn't really work out that way. Against Sean Porter, who he fought differently than Errol Spence and is the only person to knock out Sean Porter. Sean Porter, he landed 98 punches and he stopped Sean Porter in the 10th round. So he might not have gotten this over had the fight go to distance. I would still kind of favor slight overs here, at least for Crawford, because I think he'll win the fight, countering and neutralize Errol Spence to some extent. I think the volume is going to be, probably a little bit less than what Errol Spence fans are thinking, because what we also have to keep in mind is this is a long layoff for Errol Spence, who's been away for 15 months. And Terence Crawford is not a quick starter either. So this is something that people are going to have to factor into, because the punches landed are not going to come more than likely in the first couple of rounds, because we're going to get a couple feel-out rounds tonight, because you have one guy who's been out of the ring for over a year and another one who tends to start slow, really study his opponent those first couple rounds before kicking it into gear round 3, round 4, and then sort of dominating the fight from there. All right, so the next portion of this, let's get into, David, what do we have here? We have fantasy score. Okay, can you put up the scoring chart so we can break down really quickly for people who get to this later before the fight what this sort of means, because I don't know if a lot of people know how boxing fantasy works. So PrizePicks provides a sort of chart for how this goes. Punch landed, you get half a point every punch landed in the fight. So if you're going over, that's going to be a lot of points right there. If 150 punches landed, that's 75 fantasy points right there. Quick math. Knockdown, 12 points. Being knocked down, minus 12 points. I don't expect any knockdowns, but flash knockdowns and stuff does happen. And Terence Crawford has knocked out some guys who have never been knocked out before. So let's keep that. Errol Spence too, actually. So let's keep that in mind. Fight conclusion bonuses. If you win within the first couple rounds, as in first 2, that's 100 points. 3 to 6 is 75. 7 to 10 is 50. 11 to 12 is 25. And if you win by decision, that's 20 fantasy points. So if you're doing this in the way, and Alf, I'm going to toss it to you now. If you're doing this in the way that I think this can go, if you're going over on punches landed, that's 100, and let's say Terence Crawford lands 150 punches, so I could just make up a mock sort of thing for people. And you go to that 75 points right there. You win by decision, that's another 20. So you're only looking at 95 points without a knockdown. So this is where it gets tricky. It's like, how many punches is Terence Crawford going to land? So I actually think this is a really smart number.
Yeah, so it's the numbers right there, right? So I think this is one of those, or it depends on your opinion. You think that Terence Crawford can win by stoppage? You're obviously going to go over on this 99.5.
Correct.
But if you think it's going to go the distance, man, first of all, I would pass. But if you had to bet it, I would go under. Because it looks like, you know what? I feel really good about that 142.5 that they have right there. I think it's going to be around that number. Again, like I said, if each guy averages, let's say each guy throws 750 punches tonight, which is a high number, but I kind of have it in that Spence Porter mode. I think that's the kind of fight we're going to look at tonight. If each guy throws roughly 720 to 750 punches tonight, man, you got to feel good about going over and on 12 rounds, which means you go under on this fantasy score. Because if you're going to be at 145, 150 punches landed and you win by decision, you're going to fall short on that 99.5.
The thing that's tough for me on this is I don't think there's going to be a knockdown in this fight. But if you do think that there's going to be a knockdown, and presumably the guy who you think would score the knockdown would win the fight, you'd probably take the over also, because you just get there. I think this is a stay away from me as well. Yeah. Because while I think Terence Crawford is going to win the fight, I just laid out a scenario where it's like he might get it. But then again, look, he lands 160 punches on Errol Spence, who, again, not hard to find, right? But again, those first couple rounds could be slow. There might be another lull in there. Like, I don't really know. Like, I think I think the 142.5 is an over, but it's like a slight over. I don't think it's going to be like he's going to land 200 punches tonight. This is not going to happen. If it's 160 and he gets the 80 points there and then wins by decision, you get your additional 20. That's 100. And I think that's why this line is where it is. So that's tough for me. It's a stay away for me. I'd be curious to see if it moves and in what direction it moves by the time of the fight. And if Errol Spence, presumably it will, his fantasy score shows up at some point. I'd be looking to see that as well and what that would be listed as.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think we're both looking at the fight the same way because I have Crawford by decision as well.
Yeah.
Although I'm tempted to, just put a little bit on a Crawford stoppage because it's kind of juicy.
I'm tempted to actually.
I'm hoping that we're not watching. Look, I'm a fan of both of these guys. Okay, I'm actually rooting for health, so we could have a second and maybe even a third fight.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm rooting for health.
There is a rematch clause. Errol Spencer said if he wins this fight, he wants to do the rematch at super welterweight because he's tired of cutting down to 147.
Yeah, and that's part of my reasoning why I like Crawford, by the way, because I really do believe that Spence's future in the sport is probably at 160 and middleweight. Because he's
interesting. 154 for sure. 160.
154, obviously, but you got to figure a Charlo fight is probably coming. Maybe a Sue fight. Does Tim Tszyu, Errol Spence do anything for you?
I would like to see that actually.
Okay, but I think he's going to happen at 160. It's not going to happen at 154.
It might it'll happen at 154 because Tim Tszyu I think is a champion at that weight right now. But Errol Spence, I think regardless. The way this is looking, he'll probably be preoccupied with Terence Crawford for some time.
Yeah.
Before we get to that, and we'll see how he makes it out of what could be a trilogy when we think about it. Gennady Golovkin, Canelo Alvarez at 3, Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury had 3, and I'll remind people actually, those 2 trilogies both began with a draw. So the judging here could be a little, so.
I do feel good about this. Is not going to be a super fight dud. This is not going to be Tito Trinidad, Oscar De La Hoya. It's not going to be that. Okay, that's fresh in my mind because I just saw the Oscar De La Hoya documentary. I don't know if you saw it, Brian. It was pretty good.
Where is it at?
It's on HBO Max.
Okay, I'm going to see it. I might watch it today.
It's pretty good, and they go over that fight. And if you remember that fight, it just it refreshed my memory.
He lost.
He actually gave away that fight. He gave away the last 5 rounds. Essentially on purpose. He just ran the last 5 rounds.
If he didn't want to. Trinidad touched him early on, and he was like, "I ain't doing this."
Yeah, I'm not engaging anymore. And he won the first maybe 6 out of the first 7 rounds, and he looked good doing it. But then he decided, I'm not fighting anymore, and threw the fight away. I don't think we're going to get that tonight. I think we're going to get some action tonight. I think Terence Crawford is really good at getting small and in the pocket.
Yes.
And so you're going to see some fighting on the inside as well. I think Crawford, I think gets the advantage there. I don't think Errol Spence can win if he's just going to try to keep distance, try to fight behind a jab. I don't think he can win that way.
I think it's going to be the reverse because I think Crawford is shorter but has a 2-inch reach advantage, and I think that he's going to want to box from the outside anyway because Errol Spence is like in the inside. Errol Spence is going to win that fight. But in these type of fights, I typically lean boxer over puncher, Andre Ward over Sergey Kovalev, Floyd Mayweather over Manny Pacquiao, Tyson Fury beat Deontay Wilder, even though I thought Wilder, he's a unique case because I feel like he can beat anybody because of his ability to find that knockout punch, which he almost did in the Tyson Fury fight multiple times, but still. Yeah. And real quickly before we wrap, let's get to the undercard here. There is one prop available right now. There might be some more. We have fight Isaac Cruz under 22.5 minutes. So if you're looking at this, and do they have this on scoring chart or how to play, or probably not Help Center, but scoring chart or how to play, David, see if we can pull that up there. They got rounds, maybe it's how to play, but for people who haven't bet rounds before, or fight time rather, I would say, for Isaac Cruz at 22.5, just do some math. 3/7 is 21. 3/8 is 24. So you're looking at midway through round 7. Do you think it's going to be over or under? Alf is saying it's going to be under. I'm probably inclined to agree, but he's going to fight Giovanni Cabrera, and Isaac Cruz fought memorably, Gervonta Davis, very tough about a year and a half ago, and has gotten a couple like legitimately highlight reel knockouts since. We haven't seen him since September, and he is the perfect co-feature for this card because he's going to try to put on a show. So, Alf, you're going under here. Why is that?
These co-features tend to be kind of showcases. I'm not going to say it's a setup, but I'm saying it's a setup.
He's the only big favorite on the main card. All the other fights are very close. He's the only big favorite, and that's against a guy, Gio Cabrera, who's undefeated.
Yeah, I think the matchmakers are going to get over on us on this one. I think it's a setup. I think they know about their styles, and I think they have them perfectly pegged for Isaac Cruz to look flashy and to look really, really good. So, I think 22.5, it has to get past the 7th round. Stoppage in the 5th sounds fine to me. Isaac Cruz, I think, by knockout.
So Isaac Cruz knocked out Eduardo Ramirez in September in round 2 and I've seen that entire fight like 3 or 4 times because he just comes out like he's really a fight fan's like type of fighter. Like he's the kind of dude like you just want to see a smaller dude, like a Mexican style fighter, knock somebody the fuck out. That's what he does.
Yeah, right? when he fought Gervonta Davis, I was like, wow, this guy's crazy.
Yeah, he took some chances. He landed some. I thought he lost a very close decision that fight. And then so Isaac Cruz got a 2nd round knockout his last fight against Eduardo Ramirez, and he stopped Yuriorkis Gamboa. Everybody does now, but he stopped Yuriorkis Gamboa before that in round 5. And memorably, he did win a couple decisions leading up to Gervonta Davis. One was against Francisco Vargas, who, I mean, you talk about guys that could take a punch, so I wouldn't hold that against him. And then the other one, Jose Matias Romero, who was undefeated, skilled fighter. But before that, he knocked out Diego Magdaleno in 1 round. So Isaac Cruz, the only thing that concerns me about this is Gio Cabrera, who's 21-0 with only 7 knockouts, is somebody who, like, he's taller, he's longer, 5'9", 71-inch reach. Isaac Cruz is much smaller. He's going to have like a 7-8-inch reach disadvantage. I think he's going to knock out Gio Cabrera and eventually find him. But there's a world where the distance is too much to overcome. He can't quite close the gap, his short arms, and then he's not, able to just sort of get in there. But he's going to throw looping hooks. He's going to throw these looping shots. And Gio Cabrera is a skilled fighter, talented fighter, formerly of Top Rank. But I think that Isaac Cruz can get this done. I'm not I like where the line is from a betting perspective because this is a tough one, but I do think he can find him early between rounds 1 and 6. And I think that's really all it comes down to. He may struggle in the beginning because of the size disadvantage, but he's also used to fighting guys with much longer arms, longer reach, and being able to just sort of get in the pocket, dip his head, throw those looping shots from weird angles, and I think he's going to catch them. So I do think that this could be an under. This might be a little bit of a stay away for me, but if you stay away from too much, then you're not going to play anything. So I'll probably take a chance at the under here on my card. So my card is probably going to be, now I'm thinking about it, I'll take the chance on Isaac Cruz with the under. I'll take Terence Crawford over on 142.5 punches. And that'll probably be the boxing portion of this that I'm going to do tonight. I think those are my 2 favorite plays that will be of what we talked about.
Yeah, I'm doing essentially the same thing. There's a hedge to be had, but that's on another platform. But I'll take over on both guys, 142.5. I'll take over on both. I think we're going to see 12 rounds tonight. I think we're going to see eventually we might even see 36 rounds when all of this is done.
Hopefully.
But I do love that Isaac Cruz under. I'm starting my night with that. That's going to be the first bet for the night.
I think those are the 2 that I'm going to play. Maybe a little $10 card, potentially win 30 on a power play. I think that's what we're going to do. So those are our thoughts on the fight. Errol Spence Jr., Terence Crawford, co-feature Isaac Cruz, Gio Cabrera. That's going to be on Showtime pay-per-view. It's going to be a lot of money, so try to find a fight party if you can. There are probably other methods that people will try to obtain by watching the fight, but I will not touch that right now. Thank you to everybody for this platform. Remember, use the promo code 5 FIVE, spell that out, get that deposit matched, and bet on the fight. Good luck.